I'm Rory Greener with XR today, bringing you a new exciting big XR update with Lenovo. And today we're joined by their head of XR Commercialization, Jason McGuigan. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks again, Rory. Good to see you.
Yeah, thank you so much. And so this is going to be a nice deep session and go a deep dive into a lot of points here. But let's start off with you, your personal background, your experience with XR, etc. So to kick us off, could you share a little bit about your professional background and how you got to this role today?
Yeah, sure. Happy to. So I've been in the XR space for about a dozen years. So in the terms of modern day XR, been with it for quite a bit. I was working prior to my time at Lenovo for a production agency that worked in the space of traditional media, and we really saw the opportunities to start deploying interactive media to our enterprise customers. Lenovo being one of the first customers within that space for us, probably about 10 so years ago. And when the opportunity came up to move over to Lenovo in more of a leadership role around what we were doing within the virtual reality space, I jumped at it. So I've been with Lenovo now for about 6 years. We've obviously had a lot of evolution with what we're doing within the XR space, and that continues every day. Every opportunity that we have to change and evolve and create true solutions for the market, we look at it seriously. So that means that we have a kind of a ever-flowing process of what we're actually looking at bringing to market.
Fantastic. And, speaking about your sort of achievements there really and the progress, is there any fun facts you can share that highlight your personality and your achievements specifically then within Lenovo?
The things I'm really proud of with inside the walls of what I've been able to accomplish here at Lenovo is really that evolution that I mentioned. We have always had a very strict remit to make sure that we're providing full XR solutions to customers. So that means that we really look across the broad spectrum, not just looking at here's a piece of hardware. I liken it to what Lenovo's core business is around PCs and laptops. And you give somebody a ThinkPad, and everyone knows what a ThinkPad can do. There's no challenge, there's no mystery. But you provide somebody an XR device, and usually it has to come with the explanation why you actually need it, why you actually want it, what you're going to do with it. And that's really, I think, where I'm really proud of the work that the team has done on that, is continuously building up the ideas of we're not just moving the box with the device in it. We're saying, here's what you're going to do with it. Here's why it matters to you. This is the ROI. And let's even figure out how we're going to implement it and make it successful for you. So that way it's just not drop it off and here you go, figure it out. So that's the area I'm really proud of what we've been able to accomplish within this space.
All right, fantastic. And then talk us through a typical day or what a typical day looks like for you while looking into all these emerging technologies that you are. It must be very complex.
Yeah, I mean, I joke that anybody that's in a position within any sort of enterprise organization, you ask somebody what the job is, and a lot of my job is making slides, right? So nothing becomes reality until you put it into PowerPoint. So there's a lot of work around making sure that the team is aligned, that my direct folks that are working underneath me know exactly what they're supposed to be tasked with, but really taking a look at how we promote those ideas within the broader company, and then externally, enabling our partners, making sure we're clear in our messaging to external partners, and then also really looking at down the road, who are the best folks that we should be partnering with? How can we bring their solutions further to scale through the things that Lenovo is really great at? The areas that we focus on broadly as a company is really through bringing the end product to customers. If you look at it, we're not building the chips, we're not building the storage, we're not building the screens. In some cases, we may be building monitors, but if you take a laptop, for example, we're providing that end compute thing to the end customer, where they get that in their hand, and that's the thing that they're really interacting with. They don't say, "I'm really glad I have an Intel chip today," even though they may not realize it. They're happy they have a ThinkPad. So that to me, I think, is one of those core aspects that differentiates us, and one of those things I think overall that really we focus a lot of our attention on.
Fantastic. And let's dive deep into Lenovo now. So in your best quick elevator pitch, how do you describe Lenovo in a nutshell? It must be quite hard because that nutshell is going to be quite big, I assume.
Well, I mean, it's one of those things that fortunately we have a major brand recognition associated with it. Lenovo is one of the world's most largest and most respected technology brands. We are the world's largest PC manufacturer, so there's a chance that someone, either yourself or someone you know, has a ThinkPad, has a workstation from us. So high likelihood you've already interacted at some point in your life with a Lenovo product. So one of the world's largest technology companies, and within the XR space, we focus on true XR solutions for our customers wherever they may lie. That's kind of the broad remit right now. The area that we really focus a lot of energy on is obviously where the entire technology industry is looking at is AI. Lenovo's overall focus is smarter technology for all, and right now we're looking at that from a slightly narrower lens around AI for all. And that's very much about providing equitable access to these advanced world-changing technologies to everybody through the devices we put in people's hands. So if you're interacting with a Chromebook, you're interacting with a ThinkPad, we're thinking proactively around how you're going to utilize AI with that endpoint device, not just about AI in the abstract.
And fantastic. I feel like this is quite a multifaceted question, but what is unique about your company culture? Again, there's probably so many angles to go from with that.
From a company culture perspective, we are a global organization through and through. We have teams that we work with on a daily basis that span from here to China to Asia Pacific to Europe. We are we jokingly talk about it internally is that you'll be on a call at 8 a.m. then 8 p.m. and then if somebody needs you, you'll be on at 2 a.m. because there's global business to be done. Fortunately, Lenovo as a collective manages that effectively with the team. We try and be conscientious of that work-life balance overall, but really that global aspect and that reach that we have really sets us apart. Most of the organizations we work with are on that global scale. When you look at the Fortune 500, many of those companies have locations throughout the world. So they don't need a technology partner that's just going to be servicing them in North America or in China or in Japan. They need somebody that can work with them across that full spectrum and provide product and solutions across the board.
And fantastic. And from your perspective, working in the sector of Lenovo that you are with XR, emerging technologies, AI, etc., what recent awards or accolades has your company received that you're particularly proud of or you want to highlight?
Well, we received quite a few design awards, Red Dot awards, things of that nature for our previous products like the VRX and A3. When we were building a lot of our own product internally around like the Spaces platform, the previous generation, we have an amazing design team that has won many accolades on that front. We also have gotten a lot of great notoriety through some of the things we're doing on the sponsorship front. So you're probably familiar with what we're doing with F1 from a technology standpoint. We were able to do major XR deployments at F1 races that gave us a lot of attention to media, to our partners, and to a lot of the players that actually go to those races at those elevated locations, and bring people into the fold and give them the understanding of what Lenovo is doing in these more not core solution perspective. What we sometimes refer to as kind of next wave solutions. The computers that you'll be wearing rather than the computers that you'll be going to or carrying with you. Those are the areas I think we're most excited about right now, including the upcoming FIFA sponsorship that we're doing that was announced some time back. So coming this summer, later this year, you're going to see a lot of messaging around Lenovo with FIFA, as we go into early next year into CES, you'll get a lot more of a color around that.
Fantastic. And let's touch on your market model now briefly. How does Lenovo approach its broad market, and then perhaps also within there the XR market too? And could you describe your partner ecosystem and go-to-market strategies?
Sure. So Lenovo, I think, is very well known for being experts in what we refer to as the channel. Now, broadly, many big companies will sell, especially within their consumer space, they'll sell direct to consumer through markets like Amazon and Best Buy, and those essentially act as resellers for our product. But when you look at the enterprise space, there are these much larger organizations that focus only on allowing for purchase between large-scale organizations. So if a big airline wants to buy headsets from Lenovo, typically they're not going to buy that direct. They'll buy it through a resale partner like a CDW or an SHI. Lenovo's business is built around that massive channel market, and that's really where we have some of our biggest strengths. Because we have so many physical products and we move so much through that, That means that we get a lot of priority from those partners, and those partners make sure that they're keeping the Lenovo pipes clean and everybody happy, and all those aspects run smoothly. So that way we have an advantage in market when we're talking to those types of customers to provide product more seamlessly, avoid any of the other traditional more procurement hurdles that other organizations might hit. So it really gives us a distinct advantage within the technology space from a go-to-market perspective.
Fantastic. And can you detail a little bit more about your ideal customer profile and tech buyer persona, specifically from the XR side of things?
So specifically from the XR side, there's the stages within organizations of the XR ecosystem right now, because it is still an early stage technology. It's starting to mature, and we're seeing a lot of maturation versus where we were, say, 5 to 10 years ago. However, you will look at an organization, you'll see the people that are the champions, and then below that, you'll have people that are more like advocates. Then you'll have people that are a little more apathetic, and then you'll have the pessimists. So you break it into those kind of 4 stages that we look at. We really look at the targets for the organizations that already have those champions built in. When we talk to them, we're not training them on day one what XR is, because that means that they're so far away from an actual deployment that they're still maybe determining whether or not they even want to go through a proof of concept. We really look for more of those mature relationships because we're a mature technology partner. So when if you want to do a proof of concept, you can go to Best Buy and get a device off the shelf and test out whether or not XR works within your organization. But when you're ready to scale, that's when we want to be brought into the equation, because that scale may come with additional challenges around your networking, the actual core compute, if you're trying to do things at a more robust level on, say, graphics, graphic and design. Maybe you need a high-end workstation to pair up with that XR device. So there's all these other secondary aspects we look at when someone goes to full deployment that aren't necessarily needed in that proof of concept phase. That's where we look for that ideal spot. There's somebody that has a champion, they've already gone through the proof of concept, they've built up enough advocacy within the organization where you're not going to be struggling to get everybody on board because they've done some of that work themselves. And your apathetic and your pessimistic people are at least willing to give it a shot because they've seen the proof of concept succeed. So we look at it that approach, and that sweet spot is to find those groups that already have a little bit of maturation in there that we could then help to accelerate.
And when you meet that customer in their scaling journey and you jump in and do your thing, for use of better words, what are the key XR products and technologies that you're offering, and then what features would make them relevant in today's business environment, not necessarily in 2-3 years, as some people assume?
Yeah, and we really like to keep our eye down the road, but also very straight down at our feet, making sure that we're focusing on the next step in front of us rather than, this is going to be great to solve it down the road, but let's focus on what's actually available in the moment. So that's a great point, Rory. Right now, you may have heard about the announcement we made just over a year ago between our organization and Meta, where we're planning and building out a future products built on the Horizon OS ecosystem. Now, Meta is still in the process of making that fully OEMable, if you will, where other OEMs will be able to actually take it and build it into their product. And in that interim, what we've announced about 2 months or so ago is ostensibly that we're reselling the Meta product with Lenovo service support and software wrapped around it. So what we do in the practical sense right now is everyone knows the Meta Quest products. They're the most broadly utilized ones in market. So we go directly to the customers that are already either working on and with Meta products or are working anywhere in the XR space, because the Meta products are fairly ubiquitous in their utility within XR. And we try and wrap the Lenovo technology arms around it. Most of the organizations we speak to have gone through the POC phase and they are ready to continue to scale, but they will hit challenges and say, you know what, we can't deal with maybe a more consumer-focused approach on customer support the way Meta has it in place. We need Lenovo to step in and actually act as that firewall when our team actually has issues. Who do we actually call? So Lenovo's introduced what we call as Lenovo Integrated Solution Support to wrap around the Meta devices. So Lenovo Integrated Solution Support allows a customer to pick up a phone, 60 seconds, have somebody, a Lenovo badged engineer on the line to help solve for their actual issues on device. Very different than 24-hour email support that may take multiple exchanges, and maybe it takes a week or more to finally get to a resolution in that path. This is something where a enterprise customer says, I need a resolution today, I'm down right now. We help them through that. And in addition to that, we look at all the other ways that we can help bring that more full solution. So instead of just saying, here's a box with a device in it again, we've created and curated a significant list of ISV partners that allow us to sell on a single piece of paper to the customer, both the headsets, the software, and the solution itself, and the service itself. So they'll get the list support, but they'll also get ISV software, which means they actually can deploy the full thing rather than just the part of the thing. In the traditional model with that, you would have to source that from each individual vendor. And it may not seem like a big deal if you had to go to the butcher for your meat and you go to the farmer's market for your vegetables. But in the broader enterprise technology world and education space, a lot of times these organizations cannot buy from smaller organizations. So there's this misfire within the XR space when you've got no big company like an Adobe or an Autodesk that everybody can already buy from because they're a massive organization. You've got these very small ISVs that are creating amazing software, but they have no ability really to transact with those big companies. And that's where Lenovo plugs itself in. We work with the ISV, we build that structure in, and then the customer can buy directly through us, and we fulfill the entire package. So that creates a very unique differentiation for us in space. Some resellers can do that themselves directly, but we look at it ourselves as the top of the funnel. If you already have a Lenovo part number, it goes down to anybody that can sell a Lenovo and Meta product can sell these other products as well, and it creates those full solutions for that end customer.
Fantastic, and I appreciate you essentially walked us through there the from point of adoption with Lenovo to scaling to post implementation success. So thank you with that. And with these partners and customers, what topics are currently dominating your conversations? What are they most interested in? What are they curious about? What challenges are they facing?
So one of the biggest areas we've always looked at in this space is education and more like public sector. So one of the challenges associated with enterprise direct, and this isn't a universal challenge because some organizations have very similar needs. If you look at getting leadership training or getting management training for how to deal with difficult situations, how to dialogue with people, all of those things can be done in a fairly ubiquitous way across enterprise companies. But if I'm trying to train an employee in a big box store A and big box store B, they're going to have different branding, different protocols, different ways they handle things, different ways they do their returns, different way their cash register work, all the things that you'd want to train an employee on, they would have to be created specifically by an ISV for that one organization, which means the cost factor of that goes way up and the time to actual deployment goes way up as well. So one of the reasons we look at education in public sector is that there's very broad focused use cases that are universal. So training somebody how to do basic electrical work or basic nursing or basic K through 12 biology, chemistry, things of that nature, those are things that they build textbooks around. There's a logic behind it. It's the same for everybody because that's how the systems work. And we can create modules that then can be deployed in those systems and in those spaces because it's always the same model. That means that software cost goes down, the ubiquity of that product goes way across, and we end up having solutions that could hit lots of different customer types without having to reinvent the wheel and turn up the time and cost factor each time. So that's why we put a lot of energy into that. Those areas really are, a big, a focus of us as well, because that customer base is constantly refreshing. Now, if you're a employer and you bring on a new batch of employees, maybe you're doing that a couple of times a year, and maybe you're doing that for one job sector this year, and next year you're not doing that training for that same group of people because you already have them on board. But every year, there's a new batch of students. Every year, there's people looking for new careers. Every year, there's students saying, do I want to go to college, or do I want to train in more of a manufacturing position, or I want to work in another fashion where I can walk away with a significant high-paying job without student debt. All of those things are areas of target and focus for us to deploy those comprehensive solutions with.
Fantastic. And just building off the problems and challenges of which your technology solves, as you were just speaking, have those needs changed over the past 4 or 5 years? Have you learned from that evolution of customer or client requirements for use cases or problem solving, etc.?
So what I think has evolved is, and one of the reasons we partner with Meta, is the maturation of the devices and the ease to get into them. And the biggest thing we talk about with customers is after they're ready to scale, is the actual change of where they are to where they want to go with this new product in hand. And that change management is really down to the friction that the devices and the systems put in place. If it's too difficult for somebody to get it up and running each time, and if you have to train somebody on how to use the device that takes as long as the actual training you're trying to put them into, it drives some of that utility down and creates a lot of challenges with it. And that's one thing that the market and the collective has really helped accelerate. Both the maturity of the product, say on the Meta side, where the Quest devices just work. There's barely ever a failure, a glitch, a bug that would be a stopping point for it, because the devices have been engineered to a very, very high degree. And then when you start looking at some of the maturation of the software and the ways that we could deliver on that software, that's also accelerated. So I think from a market perspective, the market has been asking for these things for quite some time. We're finally getting to the point where we could deliver it with a lot less friction, which means that adoption is starting to increase. The biggest, obviously, evolution around all of it, though, is definitely through generative AI. And where that plays a specific spot in our market is in two specific areas. One is in the actual production of the content, where an ISV developer may have previously taken them 6 months to develop a piece of content, but because of the tools that they're using now, it may take them as short as 6 weeks or 6 days. So that shrinking obviously drives their cost down, their time to market down, and means that they could build out a broader library which has more broader appeal. So that's changed within the market. And then the secondary aspect of AI within this is absolutely around the on-device and in-experience implementation of AI. Previously, if you're creating an experience, you have to think of every path that a user might take. So for a simple example, if I'm creating a dialogue tree for myself to interact in XR with an avatar, the programmer would have to create the questions and record the dialogue and have either voice talent or a poorly generated computer voice that would then go into it. And then you'd have the 3 answers you can give, and then it would give a response. And that usually would be the end of it. Maybe you had a few branching paths over there, but every time you added a branch, you had more programming time, more lift, you'd have to script it, all of the things that you have to put into it. With AI now, you can give the back end the access to an LLM and declare a persona for that avatar, and it will have a free-flowing conversation. You're no longer bound specifically to ABC. It can be given guardrails, and it can say you can only answer within these windows, but it is not something a programmer has to go in. It's not something a voice talent has to come in and re-record. And there are obviously some challenges within the more broad of creative space around what that does to the creative field, about rights management, where is the information coming from. There's a bit of a fork in the road with that, though, because within the consumer space or in the artistic space, that's absolutely a very big concern about where that information is coming from, and can that information really be owned and copyrighted, and how those models are actually trained. But within the enterprise space, if the enterprise itself is training that model on their company data, and then they're using it to train their employees, it's all basically owned information already. It's not directly impacting and pulling from more of that common source information where there may be some more concern. And we're really looking at bringing that closer and closer to the premises of the enterprise or the education system. So that way there is a direct communication, a direct ownership of that conversation that happens between AI and device. That's the biggest inflection point we're seeing within the XR space, is the implementation of AI on both sides. And we're going to see that rapidly progress our industry over the next 5 years.
Fantastic. And just a couple more before we wrap up. Firstly, how does Lenovo approach innovation across the board? And when it comes to gathering feedback and generating new ideas on the XR side, how do you approach that? And what's the magic behind all that?
Yeah, I mean, it's as simple as listening to our customers. Really, when we look at it, the innovation portion is driven by customer need. And when we look at it, absolutely, we will try and be as inventive as possible within the constraints of making sure this actually solves something for an end customer. We want to be extraordinarily innovative within innovative spaces, But if it's just for the sake of innovation and it doesn't actually serve out one of those use cases or one of those customer needs, it'll end up in a proof of concept, and we definitely do that as an organization. We'll create things that we know will never be a mass market product, but there are majority of the things that we look to innovate is making sure that when that product actually ends up in someone's hands, that they are impacted by that innovation. It's not, like I said, it's not innovation for the sake of innovation's sake. It's innovation for the sake of making sure a customer or consumer or enterprise's needs have been answered with that innovation.
Fantastic. And then looking through your own personal lens, what do you see as the biggest opportunity within the XR industry today?
I mean, back to AI. I mean, the interesting thing about our market, Rory, is that, if you've been in the space as long as I have, as long as you have, and early on, we all knew that there was going to be a point in the future where you'd have very small form factor glasses with a display that can go from fully transparent to fully opaque, that you'd be able to wear all day, and you'd see virtual objects when you want to see virtual objects, you'd see the real world when you want to see the real world, you'd see a crossover when you want to see the crossover. We're seeing those technologies be built today, largely because of the implementation of what AI is allowing people to understand the capabilities of these devices are. A lot of the challenges that we saw when people were originally talking about the idea of the metaverse was the absolute massive scale of creating anything like that. If we go back to Ready Player One, and we start thinking of that, to create all those 3D assets before generative AI would have required 3D artists working on every individual nuance and detail to the nth degree to make it as realistic and as best as possible. Now we can create some sensors on a device that filter in. The LLM will help to interpret what's actually being seen. It will also help to appropriately tag those objects, appropriately give directions. A lot of these things happening directly on the fly. It could interpolate a flat image and turn it into a 3D object that stands right in front of you. All of those things are already here in various capacities. So that's what gets me super excited about this, is that vision that we've all seen that have been in this space is starting to come to fruition. And the easiest example I have of that is a good buddy of mine who he's been a friend of mine for about 20 years. And when I got into the XR space, I've been getting him into everything from Google Cardboard to the Gear VR to the first Rifts, all the way up until the most modern headsets now, the Quest, the Vario devices, everything else that we work with, and anything in the AR spectrum as well I get my hands on. And he's always liked it, but he's never quite understood how it's actually going to impact everybody. The way I've been saying, this is going to impact everybody down the road. And he recently got a pair of the Meta Ray-Ban glasses, and he had them on. And I asked him about it. He said, I use them every day. I talk to it. I ask it, for instructions when I'm in the kitchen, or reminders when I'm parking my car, or questions about the type of cloud I'm looking at, or whatever it may be. And he's using it all the time. And he said to me, he's like, I really wish, though, that they'd have like a little screen on them sometimes, so that way I could see what was being filtered out, or maybe it could point me in the right direction, not just tell me. And I said to him, I was like, you realize you're describing an XR device, right? We're just now getting around back to that thing where people in the general populace that may have not understood where this was going, and we've kind of seen that path all along, they're starting to say, oh, it would be great if this did this. And everyone that's been in the space as long, like, yeah, we know. That's why we're here. That's how we've gotten to this point. And AI really is that driver behind that, because without that power to unlock that constant random thought that could result in an experience, we wouldn't be where we're at. If everything had to be pre-programmed, everything had to be created just for you, that's such a longer timeline to get to where we are already right now. And that's just going to be an explosion of growth within just the next few short years, I expect.
Fantastic, incredibly insightful conversation there, Jason. For those listening who want to learn more about where you're at nowadays, what's the best way for them to learn more? Website, LinkedIn, that kind of thing?
Yeah, reach out to me on LinkedIn. Obviously, you can go to Lenovo.com to find out what we're actually doing in the XR space. We are working a lot with Meta right now on our current and future roadmaps, but we really look at this as a broad spectrum solution focus. So we really do look at every device that's out there, every product that's out there, every sort of software solution that provides an actual utility to our end customers. And that's the thing that we'll continue to do. And you'll hear more from us as we continue throughout this year into next. So look for more, in this space from us, and reach out if you got any questions.
Brilliant, great. Thank you so much for your time today, Jason. Very insightful stuff.